bonjour, bonjour, comment allez-vous, and je vais très bien. How's everybody? Hey, we're glad to see everybody's here. We hope you had a great week. But if you know about us, we're here to make it better. Thanks for the flash goal. All right. So anyway, we got a good discussion for you all tonight, and this is going to give you something to think about. But first of all, before we get into it, you know what we do. The first thing we do, we got to toast to everybody on our line. So here's to everybody on our line. All right. Now, last week we talked about whether or not and why is it important to become uncomfortable to reach our full potential. And I'm telling you, we had a great discussion on that. So if you get a chance, go on my Facebook page and check it out. But it's going to give you a lot of good information. All right. And you'll be surprised some of the responses and how the conversation went. But it's to everybody's betterment. All right. What's up, Mitch? What's happening? All right. Hey, Dark and Lovely. All right. Okay. All right. Let me go ahead and bring my co-host on because we got a doozy, and I guarantee you this is something that you all have not thought about. I'm going to give you the topic right now, but this is something that most people haven't thought about. Hey, stars or stinks. Anyway, you haven't thought about this. And the question is, who is more important in a relationship? Now, I'm not talking about man versus a woman. And I'm not talking about children versus the parents. I'm talking about who is more important in a relationship when we're talking about love. Is it the person who loves more? Is it the person who gives out the love more? Or is it the person who is being loved the most? Now, that's a rhetorical question, but I'm telling you, it's going to motivate some thinking, and I'm telling you, you haven't thought about this in the manner that we're going to discuss it. But anyway, y'all hang tight. Go ahead and get your drinks and sit back and relax and enjoy the ride because we're going to have some fun with this one. All right, hold on. And again, I know if you're in Georgia, we're having a lot of rain, so just stay dry. And I'm told that it was needed, so we aren't complaining about it, okay? If you're from anywhere else in the world, hey, enjoy what life brings to you. All right, just do the best you can. Hey, Johnny, what's happening? Hey, X. I can't pronounce the rest of it, so I'm going to just say X, okay? All right, let me see. Let me see about Miss O'Neill. What's happening? Okay, Miss O'Neill, I sent you the request, so you should have it. If you don't, I don't know what it is. It's probably your internet again. But I'm going to give you a good hot second to go ahead and see can you rectify it real quick. I see you popping up. All right. Well, without further ado, until she works out whatever is going on over there, let me go ahead and get started. Here's the issue. We're talking about who is loved the more. The person who is giving the love or the one who is receiving it. Now, that don't sound like a lot, but I'm going to tell you in a lot of relationships, even though it may not be said, a lot of people have that dilemma that they deal with, especially when it comes to children. You all know it, and I'm sure y'all been in situations where you're trying to decide whether or not the children like their father better than the mother and all of that. So we're going to discuss it. All right. So here we go. All right, you keep sending me messages, but you're not logging on. DeJoya, I'm gonna try it one more time. It says that the invitation has been sent. But let's talk about it. All right. And like I said earlier, this situation and this discussion, my Lord, have mercy. What'd you have to do? Run through a battlefield or filled with mines or something?
Man, yeah. That's what I had to do. That's what I had to do.
All right. Okay. Well, I'm glad you're here. How are you anyway?
All is well. I can't complain.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't know how much you've heard, but the discussion tonight is going to be on what's more important in a relationship: the person who loves the more, or the person who is loved the most. Now, so let me start it off. Here's my thinking. All right. Now, and we're going to debate it, but this is just my opinion now. So don't y'all get all upset and take some offense to it. This is just my opinion. I believe that the person who loves, who gives the love the most, is more important. The person who gives love the most is more important in the relationship. And I'll tell you why. Because they often invest more effort, they often invest more affection, they have more patience, and they have more emotional energy. All right. Now, we're going to debate it. We're not going to debate it. We're going to discuss it. But there's a reason that I feel that way, because I believe that the person as a giver, a person which I consider myself as a giver, the person who gives the most, I think is more important if you had to make a decision or choose. Now, even though they do all those things, they become the one that I believe that's holding the relationship together, not when things are well, but during hard times. That individual who gives all the love, and I'm refraining from saying female or male, because I don't think that has anything to do with it. Although, again, my opinion, I believe women give more because they are more emotional and they're more sincere. Okay? That's what I believe. Now, what we have to understand is that love can drive sacrifices, forgiveness, and commitment. And some people argue that without someone actively pouring into the relationship, it weakens. Now, I believe that. If you don't have someone giving that love or pouring into that relationship, it weakens over time. I can guarantee you. But go ahead, Miss O'Neill. I want to know what your position is on that.
Look,
Huh?
yeah, here we go. We not gonna fight today, but
No, we ain't gonna fight.
yeah, because I love you now. I love you now. But
Yeah, yeah.
no, I believe it's who the person who is loved more, because if you love more, if you are the one that's loved more, then you can kind of pour your emotions into everything. And I think that in relationships sometimes it's more emotional than anything. um and we're not going to talk about men or women, but I just
Right,
believe
right.
it's more emotional than anything. And when the if affection is there, it's a bigger impact on the relationship and on the other person too.
Yeah,
So I believe so, and I also believe that um that I believe that's important. And a lot of people say sometimes you gotta take your emotions out of everything, but I believe in this case, I believe emotions are the main focus of driving the relationship.
yeah. Well, hey, I believe that too. I believe that's why I said that from the onstart that women generally are more emotional. They are emotional creatures. Men have that high testosterone and that machoism, so it prevents them from actually exhibiting that type of behavior. So I agree with you that in some cases, the person who is loved the more uh, is more important. I believe that because they set the emotional tone and they set boundaries in the relationship.
Yeah.
That's that's my main reason for agreeing with you on that, because the person receiving more affection probably have greater influence because they can choose how much to return.
Yeah, well, yeah, cause I don't know about other people, but when I'm in a relationship, I love the person all over and inside and out. So I'm kind of clingy myself.
Right,
So
right.
I mean, I'm gonna pour in it. I'm gonna pull out of it. I'm gonna do everything. And I think um when you start talking about this, even though it's not a man woman thing, it's just um I think it's about what's needed more,
Right,
and
right.
like I like to pour into the relationship too because I need it more. So I figure the more I give, the more love I'm gonna get.
But let me ask you, is that true in the real world? If you pour more
No, it's
into
not true in the real world because sometimes things are more one sided. But in my mind, until I'm not shown that's my focal point. Like, okay, if I give a lot, I'm gonna get. If I give a lot of love, I'm gonna get a lot of love. But then when you find out things are one sided, you kind of have to change your thought process.
okay, and now I'm 100%. Hey, Keith, what's going on, boss?
Hey, what's going on? What's going on?
All right, we're getting to it, man. Yeah. Okay, but yeah, I agree with you 100%, Miss O'Neill. Hey, Gibbs, he's one of our rising stars, so I'm glad he's always on. So good. Uh, Marcus, how you doing? All right. Elizabeth, how are you
I
doing?
came in on the tail end, but I'll just say this. I don't let me ask it this way to both of you. What's wrong with saying that women are typically more uh invested in certain situations because women are the natural nurturers, the matriarchal way it's set up. Women are the connectors in a lot of relationships. Women are the ones who bring things to the forefront. Women are the drivers and catalysts in certain relationships and bridging certain gaps with family, bridging certain gaps with friend relationships, bridging certain gaps even in other things, because sometimes some men, not all, some just not relational. And sometimes that may come from how they were brought up. It may be what they saw. Women are naturally, even if a woman maybe didn't grow up a certain way, she still has that natural nurturing that's part of her, what she brings to all these situations. So my question is, why is it wrong to say that women in those instances may have stronger, uh, uh, I don't know if relational instincts is the word, but stronger instincts to hold these things together in a relationship, which is also why it can be easier for a woman to get played because she's putting so much into it, but not also looking at the reciprocation part of what's being reciprocated, because from her perspective, being all in is what makes it go.
Right, right. Hey, look, I agree with you 100%. And I believe in each relationship, each partner have their own strengths and their weaknesses. Listen, I take it to the lowest common denominator. I look at it like this, and I'm not favoring women and bashing men or anything like that. I'm just a realist and I understand life. If a woman, now y'all hear me out before y'all start biting my head off. A woman has the child. A woman has the child. So that child becomes an intricate part of that woman's life because it comes from within her own chemical and biological makeup. Now, people will argue that men, yeah, they do their part and they're equally as important. But my point is this: I have no problem with what you just said, giving women their kudos when they gave birth to the entire world. Without a woman, there would be no creation. And I guess we can argue and say without men the same. But hear my point. My point is that woman carries that child in their body. Now, if that don't set off the fires in you and tell you something, that's important. If she's carrying that child, nurturing that child through whatever she does, the way she behaves, the way she lives her life determines whether or not that child is going to be properly nurtured, whether or not that child is going to be happy, whether or not they're going to have circumstances that are undesirable. It's that woman's position. That's just my opinion. Now, Miss O'Neill, you're a woman, so you tell me what you think about. You may feel that men are equally important from that aspect. I don't know.
I mean, no, I feel that the woman, the nurturer, is more important because you're right. We carry the life, and with
Right.
all that being said, how we are from the beginning, from the points of how we carry the child, how we are when we carry the child, and everything. Our emotions are what builds that child, even from the inside. Because we are so connected. So there's nothing wrong with saying the woman is that part, is all of those things, but in all actuality, after all that's being said, I still feel like the man is important as well because there needs to be dual sides to everything. There
And
needs to
I'm
be.
not saying that they aren't important. I'm just
I'm not
talking
saying
about
that either. Yeah, I'm not saying the man's
yeah.
not important.
No, I,
Yeah,
I
no.
know that. No, I know that. I was just speaking, because a lot of women, I hear a lot of women, and in fact, I hear, I don't need no man. I can do this, I can do that, or we don't need no man. I don't need no man to raise my child, blah, blah, blah. I really feel like I really feel like, both parts are very equal, but I feel like the woman plays a major part because how the connections that they build with that child and the connection that a child has with his mother, like that's unbreakable right there. We're not talking about those odd circumstances. We're talking about normally. So I feel like the woman is the most important part in building the child.
Well, I was
I'm
okay.
just saying,
Yeah,
I'm
go
just
ahead. Yeah, go
saying
ahead. Go ahead.
from a very simple and
Yeah,
practical.
general. Yeah, simple in general. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I'm keeping it general too. I mean, I'm not meaning. I'm not saying.
So I don't see why anyone would have a problem or not take this point of view that women in that particular case are more important because they carry, and I'm trying to emphasize this, they carry that child as a part of their body. That's like cutting off one of your arms or something. That's part of your body. All right. Hey, Digibox Bazaar. I'm just saying, Digibooks. I'm sorry. Terrence, how are you? There should be no debate about that. There should be no debate. That's not to lessen the role of a man or say that they are not important. I'm saying I ain't never met no man that carried no baby. That's all I'm saying. And look, I had kidney stones one time, and they told me it's worse than having a baby. So look, I'm all in from that perspective. Because I mean, that's some pain you got to deal with. How we got there, that's another discussion. But just from that practical position, go ahead, Keith.
No, I was just saying earlier, just a little bit about what JaJoya was saying, and I was going to say the man's role, and maybe this is different live. We're the protectors in a situation where we have to actually help regulate the emotion and how it goes through the relationship, because sometimes that's the disconnect, right? A lot of times you'll hear men always talk about women are emotional. Men are emotional too, but as a man, part of your job, I believe, or responsibility is to help keep that in line, if that makes sense. What I'm saying, not from a
Yeah,
negative
yeah,
perspective, but from the
yeah.
perspective of being a leader, being the glue, if you will, to the situation. So the women are obviously carried, did all that, but the man is the one that has to glue everything together, because at the end of the day, she's still looking to you ultimately to step into the gap. A lot of men don't step up, which is why the women step up, but that's not actually their natural role, if that makes sense what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. And, you know, I mean, we're not going to beat a dead horse, but I just think that anyone who doesn't believe that, they aren't looking at it from a realistic perspective. You know, all the material wealth, all of the strength, all the power, that has nothing to do with a woman carrying a child in their womb as a part of their life, whether or not they want it or not. Whether or not they want it or not, they've got to carry that baby. Now, that to me, that is phenomenal. That is something that is exceptional. All right, so we have to respect that. But back to what we're talking about: who is love? Who is most important? The person being loved, or the person who is giving the love? Hey, Angie, how are you? Like I said, some believe the person with less emotional dependence has more power. So the person who is being loved, because they feel that they don't have that emotional dependence on as much as the person who gives the love. They give just as much as they receive in that case. The downside to either extreme is this: if one person constantly loves much more while the other mainly receives, that can cause an imbalance. And when you have imbalances in relationships, 9 times out of 10, that relationship won't survive. You have to have balance. As we teach Masonically, you have to have balance in everything that you do: what you eat, how much you work out, how much money you make. When you have improper imbalance, give me a situation where someone who has too much money is not imbalanced in their life, or someone who doesn't have enough money is not balanced in their life. Someone who loves someone more and not being properly loved. Give me any situation in eating, how much you eat, if you don't have a proper balance. If you do anything, as the Bible might tell you, as it says, gluttony is a sin. That ain't only talking about food. That's talking about with anything, lust, desires of anything else. It does include food, but we have to understand all of that. Hey, Paula, how are you? So now, it can bring, because of the imbalance, it can bring on resentment, chasing, and withdrawals. So let's examine that. When I say chasing, that person who's not being loved enough, who's giving the love, they're going to chase to try to create that balance. And if they don't receive it, then they start withdrawing what they pour in, if that makes sense. Everybody has a limit. I don't care if some people are stronger than others, and some people can go for days, months, and years and be treated improperly and still stay. Some can't stay but a day because they won't tolerate it. Okay? So now, it can create that chasing and that withdrawal and an unequal effort and power struggle. That's why we so beautifully introduced this topic, because I knew it would branch off into all these different things. So when we talk about unequal effort and power, we go back to who's loved the most. If a person feels or has to make that comparison, we already know there's something deeper, deep rooted than just that curiosity. Hey, Ron, how are you? There's something deeply rooted besides just the curiosity. So when they try to balance things out, that unequal effort and that power, that causes the relationship to fail. Because a lot of times, and I know you've all experienced this as I have, a lot of times when you're dealing in a relationship, they don't always tell you what's wrong. Now, am I wrong or am I wrong? They don't always tell you what's wrong. You can sit over there and ask, hey, what's wrong with you, baby? What's wrong with you? What's going on? Nothing, right? So to me, they're already at that point where they feel that even if they tell you, it won't bring the desired results, right?
But when we talk about loving more and the one that needs the love and this and that, I mean, sometimes when we talk about that, I know we're talking about the balance and all of that, but
Right.
not everybody's like that, because the person that needs the love, sometimes maybe that's what they need to get them through and fix them. But that's not to say they don't return, that they're not going to return the love. I mean, I think when you say that you need that balance and this and that and the third, I think that when we're talking about a selfish person, or are you talking about in general? Because most of the time when you meet somebody as such and they need the love and you're giving it to them, usually they'll feed it back to you if that's what's missing in their life. Because usually when people are like that, or you find some people that may seem selfish at first, that might be what they were needing all their life, and when the discussion is there, like you said, once you have the discussion and you really find out what's wrong, that's why it's important to communicate. Then all of that can be understood and it can be fixed, so that way you can say, hey, well, you know what, just like you need this, even though I'm giving it to you, I need this as well, or whatever. So I think in all of this, when we're talking about the person who loves more and the person who needs love more, I think that communication is the key. Because for me, one, I had to learn how to communicate in a healthy way, and to understand that just because I needed something, or because I needed to learn to communicate, it wasn't being weak, or it wasn't being a certain kind of way. That was just allowing my mate to add to what I needed, and then that way I could do the same for them. So I think
That's a
from
good.
this aspect, I think that talking and communicating and finding the right love languages, so it's not selfish, between as Keith can say, between the two, is the best option, so we don't feel like it's one-sided.
Well, you know what? In
Absolutely.
relationships, what you said is true, and that's a problem. A lot of people don't discuss what their love language is. They try to make the person figure it out. And I think that in this era we're in, if you're getting into a situation with someone, even if it's new, you should discuss what your love languages are, just like you just said. So you said you're very clingy. So that means quality time and physical touch are two of your top ones, probably. You could be a mix of everything, but
Right.
that person has to know that. And then if that's something where they're like, well, I don't want a clingy person, well, the relationship's not going to work already right from that point. But a lot of these things don't get discussed. And I think it's okay to ask someone. So, and you know what? Some people never thought about it. They don't even know
Right.
themselves. So they actually don't know what really, you know what I do like actually. You like give me
Right.
like acts of service, words of affirmation, some people actually don't know. So I think what DeJoy said about the love language part, I think we all need to be intentional with that. And even if you've been in a relationship for a while, maybe you never discussed that with your spouse. That could be why you're having certain issues, because you're not feeding them what they're looking for. Because that love language is the like the is like the tap root to the whole thing. You know what I'm saying? If you're not giving that to them, it's gonna be off.
Oh yeah. And that's why I was trying to say that some people won't even tell you. You understand? Especially when there's been a period of time that has elapsed, and they in their minds have, in their opinions, they've given you all the signs. They feel that you should pick up on certain things. Well, you should have known by this, or you should have known by that. And see, I'm glad you all brought that point of view in, because that's the most important thing. You may feel that you've given all the signs. That's why it's not only communication, excuse me, it's what we call effective communication. If you can communicate and you can be a scholar, and you can talk with a Harvard degree, if your spouse or your significant other does not understand it or feel like you're communicating, it doesn't matter. Effective communication works both ways. You have a giver and you have a receiver. You give information and someone has to receive it. When those two dynamics meet, then you are communicating effectively.
I mean, it's probably gonna be a lot of people that's gonna jump on me for this, cause I always hear I know how to say what I want, but like for me, because I'm so damaged in certain areas, and I'm not gonna say was, because I still am, because sometimes when you get into a relationship and you find that that person heals you in some sort of way, something will come back up and it'll open those scars up again. But um like it was a conversation to the point of tears just to be able to say what I wanted. I mean, something just as simple as like where you want to eat at,
Right.
what color do you like literally, seriously, to tears. um so I feel like, like I just said like, hey, I'm so clingy, like I don't want air to be able to get between us. I'm clingy, I'm touchy feely, all those things, like and they looking at me like air. I was like, yeah, I don't even want air to be able to get between us, because I had been missing that for so long. But then too, my mate, my significant other, Sugar, had to adapt to those things, because his demeanor was totally different from mine. Even if he said, how you doing? I'd be like, well, you okay today? And he'll, yeah, I'm fine. And I was like, well, why you acting like that? So I mean, you have to get to that point, one, where you're not afraid to communicate, where you where you don't feel like this person's gonna do you like the other person. You gotta let go of that emotional baggage from other parts of your life in order to understand what it is to love and what it is to be loved. Because a lot of people don't know how. They feel like
That's right.
if I give him this, if I give her that, that's loving her. If I pay the bills, that's loving her, or that's loving him. Or if I give him dinner. No, and that's not it. Especially, I'm not like putting a color barrier there, but especially in the Black community, we have a real problem, because some of us don't know how to love, and some of us don't know how to be loved, because we're conditioned to believe a certain way. You know what I mean? So, I think that that's important too. I think that that's a real issue.
Well, I agree with you. And the thing is, it's sad because you're right. A lot of people, and that's why I always say we should never judge people, because we don't know why people behave a certain way. It took me a long time to be around some real grown men that were tough. My uncles, my father, and all the people in our community. They always had that tough exterior. They always, and I'm telling you, they did what men were supposed to do according to what they thought a man should do. But then you think about it and you say, oh man, this guy behaves this way because he just lost his job. He's used to providing. And now he's really upset because he can't provide for his family. Something that simple can change how a person behaves. It can change how they think, because it's important as a man, as Keith said, we're providers and we're the strength in the relationship. So when you aren't able to provide, And I'm talking about people from the 50s and 60s where the odds were against them. They didn't have the resources. They didn't have the internet. They didn't have none of these resources that are available to a lot of people today. So, of course, they aren't going to understand what I'm talking about. They're not going to understand that. So when you see people that way, then my first thing is always to err on the side of just being attentive, paying attention, and not judging them because I don't know their story. And we've all heard that before. You don't know anybody's story. So even though it appears to be a certain way internally, you don't know what demons people are dealing with. You don't know what they experienced in their life. So we don't know what brought that behavior on. Now, don't get me wrong, there's some low down, dirty mugs out there now. I ain't talking about them. What you say, Joy?
When we were talking about that, like, I mean, I literally, for instance, when we talk about the communication and what we're conditioned to be, in a relationship, like I had to go to Sugar and I had to be like, you know what, I feel like I'm not. And I think, and it was because I'm damaged. I had some issues going on, and I've had issues or whatever. And I said, well, I feel like I don't give enough in the relationship, because as we want to talk about, even though I was agreeing with the being loved more issue, I said because I feel like I'm not putting enough in, or what am I not doing, and this and that. But I actually needed for him to say, well, yes, you do, because you do this for me, you do that for me, to feel like I was an adequate part of the relationship. You know what I'm saying?
You
And
needed
so
affirmation. You needed
yeah,
affirmation so
yeah,
that you
yeah.
would know
And
that you
so
are
that's
contributing.
yeah, and so that was important to me because in the past I felt like I was being given everything as a form of control, right? But I
Yeah.
didn't realize that it was a form of control. So then when I got into another relationship, the proper relationship, it was like, okay, well, I'm not able to give you this, so I can't do this, I can't do that. So I think that it's important for us as women, or whatever, the least dominant side, to be able to admit or ask when we feel like something is missing. Because if you feel like it's missing, you might bring it up to your partner and they might be like, well, yeah, I wish you could do this and that. But then again, when you're giving the answer to what you ask, don't get offended or don't get hurt by what the answer is. Just use the answer to make things better. So that way, when you talk about, and I think in some instances, even though you feel like, you being loved more is more important, sometimes you got to switch it around. There's some situations that you might have to love your partner more in, and you might
Yeah.
have to be,
Yeah.
there more. And I think people have an issue with switching roles. And when I say switching roles, I'm not talking about specifically the breadwinners and this and that, although that should be not a problem either if you got to switch those roles. But I think that people feel like, well, the man should love me hard, he should this, he should that, and the woman should be loved and this and that. But I think that sometimes we have to switch those roles, and we have to switch them and be unconditional with them when we have to. A lot of people don't want to be unconditional. They just want the conditionals given on their end. But when it comes to loving and being loved, we have to be unconditional in both of those areas. You can't put a barrier right there, one for the other.
Those roles are going to change anyway. So a person, they would have to be some kind of stupid to think that they're going to be on top, are going to be the breadwinner, or going to, because anything can happen at any given
And you know
time.
what? I know you saying that, but it's some people that don't think those
I know.
roles, yeah, should change. And that's what I'm saying. I don't know how many people are on the live at this point, but my thing is just realize that at any time.
We got 1K in here right now.
Okay, for all the 1K people in here, realize that your roles in a relationship, whether it's being loved more or loving more or giving more or less, realize that it could change at some point. So yeah, that part.
Yeah, yeah, that's very important. And not only that, we have to understand that you may be in a very, very comfortable position right now. Tomorrow, it may not be that way. So you have to understand that in a relationship, that's why communication, being understanding, being considerate, being loving are the components that make it work. Because what happens if you were to get sick one day? That one person is going to have to take your position. He may not make as much as you, but they might have to wipe you down. They may have to change you. You don't know what may happen. So that's why I caution people when you're in a certain position in life and when you have been elevated or been blessed to the point where you have more than enough, be careful. Because at any given moment, you could be at the opposite end of the spectrum. Now, listen, I tried to bait everybody into that question. And the reason I wanted to bait people into it, who is loved the most, the person being loved, or the person who's given the love, is because I wanted to hear your perspectives on that. Now, this is my true opinion. And this is what I truly believe. And I know that many people would argue that the healthiest answer is neither. And that's my perspective. Many people, if you have an issue where you have to make that choice, then there's something else wrong. So many people will argue that the healthiest answer is neither become more important. And that's because relationships tend to be strongest. They tend to be strongest when both people feel deeply valued, as DeJoya was just saying, and both give and receive love. Now, it could happen at different times during the course of the relationship. It's not a 50-50, you love me 50%, so now I got to stop and wait till you catch up. Or I did this for you, so now I got to wait for you to do something to me. Believe it or not, a lot of people keep count like that in relationship. And that's why they fail. Or that's why they leave.
Listen. Like I say, I got the juice, not the tea. Yeah, listen. But where I am now in life, I have been loved so well and so deeply that there is no one up. Like there is no next person for me, no next level, and I got to that point because when I realized where I was versus where I am now, I thought, now, this is the ultimate. There is no one upping this because, like I had been so hurt and so like beat down, mentally abused, and even at sometimes, things got physical. So I was always on the defense. And so in my life right now, I don't have to be on the defense. I can be, that loving, wholeheartedly nurturing person. And it takes you to be loved so deeply, um and you have to be fixed. And it was to the point where I didn't want to be fixed. I just wanted to be new, so some things you just can't fix. And so now, in my life, there's no one up. This is the ultimate for me, so you have to get to that point where you can accept love, you can give love, and all of those things, and that you understand that where you were, it's not up to this person to fix you, but it's called a rebuild. So you have to get to that point. So when you start looking at loving and being loved or whatever, that you don't even look for a comparison, because you're not going to compare it. There is no comparison. Things are so equal and so balanced that it's no need to look for it there. So if you ever get to that point, if you've ever been, thought about you that you were slighted love and slighted caring or whatever, and you finally get to that point or that person where you being loved so deeply, there is no question, and there is no question about being fixed, because we don't want where we left. So we don't want to be fixed. We just want a new build. So that's where I am in my life. I'm a whole new person in my life. I'm a whole new kind of love in my life.
And look,
So
you
yeah.
you are one of those lucky people because a lot of people spend a lifetime trying to get that that kind of, and it doesn't have to. Here's what we need to point out: it doesn't have to be perfect. It has to be loving. If it's loving, all the imperfections are accepted. If it's loving, no matter what happens within the relationship, things will always work itself out. Hey, Ethan. Hey, Hell Dawn, how are you? Hey, TikTok lover. Yes, so it has to be that degree of understanding in the relationship because if you do not have that, I don't care what you do. I don't care how you feel about the other person. If you don't have that understanding, it cannot survive. I'm telling you that. It's from my mouth to your ear. Hey, Tasty Teas. And that is the truth. So, as I was about to say, the better question is why would you feel that you have to make a comparison in the first place? Because we understand that when both are deeply valued and both give and receive love where it's being reciprocated, it's the healthiest way to enter and be in a relationship. Even if the amounts shift, as I was trying to describe, it's not no 50-50. I'm going to watch you because I gave you a cupcake yesterday. So now I got to watch for the next day, see if you're going to give me some. I ran your bath water a week ago. Now I got to see if you're going to. No, it doesn't work. That tit for tat, that's for kids. Tricks are for kids. That's what they say. So you're wasting your time with that kind of attitude. So it shifts, and it's going to shift dramatically the longer the relationship works. Because in different stages in life, different things happen biologically, through chemistry, through the environment, through the universe. Different things happen that cause the amount of love that you can give to shift. Let's say that you're involved with someone who's perfectly healthy, a go-getter, breadwinner, God's gift to the world. What happens if all that goes away? God forbid they're in an accident, or God forbid just something happens where they don't have to be totally incapacitated, but they aren't able to do the things they used to do. You mean to tell me now your love is out the window? Hey, Mike, what's happening? So that's what we mean. So as I said, I tried to bait you into so we can have a healthy discussion, but I don't believe that neither one is more important. So I would ask this question. If a person is curious, and curiosity is okay, but when it goes beyond the stage of being curious, hey, photo shoot, when it goes past the stage of being curious, then it's unhealthy. So I would ask this question. The better question would be, what drives a person to make the comparison in the first place? Hey, Janet, that is the question. What drives a person to make the comparison as to, am I loved more? Or do I give more love? What drives you to ask that question?
It could be a number of things. They could feel like you said, they being slighted in the relationship. They could feel like it's one-sided. They could also be selfish. Sometimes some people are selfish. And
Absolutely.
I think that's the main thing. That a selfish person, one, will only question that. Two, like I said, they could feel like they're missing something in a relationship. It could be from their past journey, anything. And that's why one is good to dismiss all the past baggage in your last relationship. That's why it's good to have these conversations first. But if you just that way and you just a simpleton and you just selfish, that's neither here nor there. And number two, um, it could be just something
Wait a
that they
minute, what
need.
you call it? A simpleton.
A simpleton. Shoot. Y'all know about that. The simpleton, that game called them lemons and all that kind of stuff where you build a society. Just a simpleton. So I think y'all know I make my own words up too. That's one too. But you know, but yeah, I think all those things, need to be discussed. And I think if one partner notices it coming out, I don't think it's wrong for that partner to come and be like, hey, I see this and this going on. What's going on. So I think that's important.
Yeah, I agree with you. Hey, Baselink, how are you? So the question would be, why would they make that comparison in the first place? And there's a deeper question, because people usually don't ask who is more important in a relationship. They simply don't ask that out of nowhere. When they ask that question, that means that there's something deep rooted, or there has been an event or something that has taken place that caused them to question it. Hey, Narish. All right. So they don't ask that kind of question out of nowhere. The comparison often comes from an underlying feeling, experience, or fear. For someone to make that comparison, it comes from an underlying feeling, experience, or fear. Now, some of the most common reasons are the fear of being valued less. Someone may wonder, am I giving more than I'm getting? Someone may wonder, if they got time to think about it and there's some underlying reasons for that fear, they're going to ask the question, am I giving more than I am receiving? Right? Or do I matter as much to them as they matter to me? Now let's stop right there.
But wait a minute. Okay, so this is me now. This me, y'all know. Y'all know I'm a little touched. I'm a little touched. Now, when you gotta, I'm touched. I'm gonna tell y'all, not touched. I'm touched. Now, when you start having to ask them questions, ain't it time to go? It's time to leave, ain't it?
Are you asking that question? Are,
I'm telling I'm to me, because if I gotta keep asking, if I gotta ask them questions, I feel like sometimes I feel like if I have to ask certain questions, now I told y'all I'm a little touched. It's time to go.
well, I would say this. I would say this because you never know what drives a person. That's why we're having this discussion right now. But if it's at the onstart of the relationship, I can see why the questions are being asked. Now, if there's been some history or some longevity, then we may not be able to explain that away. If I'm asking this 5 years into my relationship, then
But I'm
I'm
just
like
saying,
you.
like, where are the warning signs? Like in that case, and plus, I like your little two-tone beard. You look like one of them little salt and pepper, them people that be modeling on Facebook. And they come out and be like, "Good God!" But anyway, yeah, I love a salt and pepper man, y'all. But I'm saying that now. See, you made me forget my question. I'm saying
You
like,
said, where are the signs? Or because
yeah,
you
it's like
talk
it's
about it
like,
should
don't you
be
notice?
coming.
See, he made me forget my question. I'm a little touched, y'all. But don't y'all don't y'all see them signs? Like, where are the signs when you got to start? I'm just trying to say where they at, cause don't
Well,
you see the
listen.
signs now?
Hey, Felix, how are you? Yeah, there are always signs. There's never something that threatens the relationship that does not come with a warning. Nothing. Somebody prove me wrong. There's nothing that threatens a relationship that does not come with signs. Now, we may choose to ignore it, or we may choose to downplay it and say it's not as severe as it is and not take heed, but there are always signs. All right, so to answer your question, me, it depends. This is just my personal opinion based on my experiences. If it's happening at the beginning, and I can work it out, or I can ask the questions, or I can observe some behavior patterns that disqualify my thinking, then I'm cool. But if I got to go 2-3 years to figure out, do I matter as much in this relationship, then I know there's something wrong somewhere, and I ain't sticking around for that. That's just me.
And
Now,
you gonna come home, everything I own gonna be in a box to the left.
to the left, I
Y'all
get
be
it.
gone to the left. That part. I'm just saying that's me now. Y'all know I'm a little touched though. So
Hey, so is fear being valued less, or it could be because they ask those questions because of past hurt or betrayal. So that's a reason too. They may ask those questions and it has nothing to do with you. It may do with trauma that they
so
experienced.
look, this is my question to both you and Keith. Now look, hold on now. Now, come on back now. Come on back now. Cause I told y'all I'm a little touched and I wanna know this question. Is when we talk about this being loved and loving and this and the third, do y'all think there is a question of somebody being too damaged to fix? Because a lot of times we get into these relationships, and I have a friend like this right now, feel like they could fix it. They could fix it, or that person will change, or this and that. And it's gotten increasingly worse over time. So at what point do you think someone is too damaged to fix? Because you get in them relationship with them people, and you realize they too damaged, and then you're gonna be on the run for the rest of your life.
Well, me
So
personally, I don't ever believe anybody is uh, too far gone. The way I look at it is this: how long does it take that person to realize that they have a problem? That's a better way to look at it, because everybody deserves an opportunity. None of us are perfect, so we all make mistakes. Now, if you got somebody that is consistently and very, very adamant about the way that they act, behave, and treat you, and you feel that it's not right, then that person is not your person. It's simple as that. A person who really cares about you, even if he or she does not realize that they have issues, if they really care about you, they're going to seek your opinion out of love and try to help you better themselves. If they aren't doing that, it's what we call it's a selfish nature. If a person refuses to look themselves in the mirror and say, look, I've got these deficiencies. I know you ain't crying every night for no reason. You're not distant for no reason. You're not communicating for no reason. You're not laying up with them for no reason. There are reasons for all of these things. As we stated earlier, there are always signs. If you refuse to see the signs, if that individual that you're referring to does not think that anything's wrong with them, there's nothing you can do to fix them. The first law of nature is self-preservation. So if you aren't that way, then you shouldn't have to carry that burden. Remember, I said on a previous live, why should you be responsible for someone else who's wrong? A lot of times people will try to transfer that guilt or make you feel that you're part of it. I'm saying if I know I ain't have nothing to do with how effed up you are, you can't make me feel like I got something to do with it. That's ridiculous to me. You know that you got a problem. Now, I'm going to offer you all the help I can give you, and I'm going to be really empathetic and sympathetic. But if you in a constant state of denial, man, I'm burning this house down. I got to
Well,
get
I'm
rid of
glad.
it.
I will say, I'm glad that my person didn't give up on me, and I didn't give up on the idea of wanting to change and needing to change. And I'm glad that they didn't give up and didn't want to change or didn't, things like that. And I think that in a relationship, when we talk about this, I think that each person needs to get to a point where they can say thank you, or I see the growth, or I see the this or that, because I think that so many times when we're in a relationship with someone, we forget to say thank you, or, the relationships, we get comfortable. We forget to say, I love you. We forget to say, oh, that was nice for you to give me those flowers, the little simplest thing, tying my shoe. I deal with a lot of health issues. Recently I found out I had lipodema, along with cerebral palsy and all those things that
What
I
is
already
that? What
had.
is lipedema?
And
What the devil is that?
like, you see
You
those
mean
Okay,
tissue.
I
you
got
mean
it.
lymphedema? You mean like like
No,
you have?
it's two things. It's LY or LI. I have the LI. It's specifically just in my limbs right now.
Okay, okay.
And there are times where I have a setback or something. I have to be like, Sugar, will you tie my shoe? Because I can't bend down, or because, my legs and stuff are so swollen, But I just am thankful for the small things, and you have to say thank you for the small things, because that person doesn't have to be with you in sickness and health and this and that and the third. So I think that sometimes we forget to point out the small things or say thank you for just the little things, and stuff like that. So I think that when it comes to being loved and being loved more and loving, that we should be able to point out those times where the love is shown, and it's not such a material thing. So for me, it's the simple things, it's the little things, because I never know when I can get up and can't put my foot on the floor, can't walk, or I might have a fall or something like that. So I have to say thank you for the simple things, just hanging in there, because I know I'm special. Y'all know I'm special now. Imagine with all this going on, I'm real special. But he's managed to stay there, and I have to appreciate that.
Well, that's all good. And to answer your question real quick, I'll give it to Mr. G. I agree with what Mr. G said. I approach it from the same perspective, but I think this is the biggest part of the whole thing is that each of us are on our own journey, and we were on our own journey before we met our significant other or the future significant other we're going to meet. So I don't believe that whatever problems or challenges someone else is dealing with, that it's your responsibility to fix or solve their problems. Now, I believe that if you can add value to it, you can add value to it. Ultimately, a person has to want to change on their own, is how I look at it. So I
Absolutely.
can't, yeah, so I can't really, if you're coming into the relationship with certain baggage, first thing is we have to be able to unpack what that is if we can even get to that level of communication. And then I, as a person, or you as a person, have to determine what you're willing to live with. You already know if a person's living with certain types of baggage, you already kind of know the scenario of how things are going to go. So now you got to decide as a person, is that whatever that person's bringing, are you willing to deal with it? Because ultimately their growth and change is going to happen on their time. So you might be in a relationship now, but it might take them 5 years to change, or 5 years to see what they need to see, or they may never see the light. So are you comfortable being in a relationship with and living with the fact that maybe this person that I'm with may not see the light? Maybe they won't see some of these things that you're seeing, or whatever the case may be. So I think it's very tricky when we look at that part of the relationship. It's nobody's job to fix anybody. And when you start taking that type of responsibility for the other person, that's where the relationships go way off.
Oh
And
yeah. Oh
and at
yeah.
the same time, there's nothing wrong with you saying, "Oh, that's deep. You know what? You on your own with that." That's not knocking them, but you can't do what they need to do for their own personal life. You can encourage them, you can support them, but you can't walk that walk for them. And I think that's where people get the relationships confused. If I'm supporting you in your growth, there's nothing else I can do. I can't change you. So if
Right.
I took it on as myself to say, well, you know what? We're going to get in this relationship. And after this period of time, I had these conversations with her and then she going to change. Nah, it's all, you already way off right there because it's just too tricky, man. And I think people carry things in a relationship that's not theirs to carry because they don't have boundaries already. And if they're not careful, those people very cleverly, I'll say, put their baggage on them because they don't want to take full responsibility for it.
Yeah. Yeah,
And a lot of
absolutely.
times that's what it is. And then they, as what you said, now they try to guilt you into believing that you're part of why they're messed up or why this situation. Ho, what I got to do with that? And then
Yeah.
you're wrong now. No. We're not going to do that, sis. You already over here. Don't put that on me. Right? And that's what you were talking about. And I agree 100%.
Yeah. Hey, look, I'm 100% down with that, Keith. Now, I'm a firm believer. I'm not going to accept uh, being assisting you in being less than you can be. I'm not going to be that person. I'm not going to shelter you from your own misgivings. Whatever you've done, now, if I love you, we're going to work it out. And I'm only interested in working it out with you once you realize that that's your issue. If you can't, like Keith just said, you have to admit and own up to it. And if you're not going to do that, then I can't help you. Hey, Lisa. Hey, Marilyn. Yep, Marilyn and Blutane 7, how are you? 3V, how are you? Okay, but that's just crazy to me. But like I said, past or hurt or betrayal, that can cause people to ask that type of question because previous relationships can create sensitivity around imbalances, abandonment, or being taken for granted. Power and control concerns. People sometimes people notice that the person who appears less emotionally invested seems to have more influence. That's why they ask those questions. That can lead to questioning about who really is more important. Because the people who are pouring in the most, they have a different way of looking at things. The people who don't pour in as much, they have a sense of entitlement. Or some of them may feel that this is the way it's supposed to be. And we need to correct that kind of thinking. Another issue could be unequal effort. One person in the relationship may feel they initiate more. They sacrifice more. They communicate more. Or they carry the emotional load. Now, I'm telling you, I've been in that situation. I've been to the point where now I'm doing all of this. That's before I grew up and understood how life is. You can be as perfect as you want to be, just like in communication. If you're not an effective communicator, then communication doesn't take place. So if I'm giving too much and I'm looking at, if I feel that I sacrifice, communicate more, and carry the emotional load, then I'm going to ask that question. Am I important in this relationship? Because why aren't they doing the same thing? Now, when you grow and you understand life and love, you understand that imbalance is there for a reason. You always work toward correcting any imbalance, but you don't throw it away just because it's unbalanced from the beginning. You try to correct that. Another reason a lot of people need that reassurance. The question can be another way of asking, Do you love me as much as I love you? When they ask that question about who's more important, the person being loved or the person who is loved, that person who's asking that question may just need that reassurance because they really are saying, do you love me as much as I love you?
Don't nobody need to ask me that because I tell them every 5 minutes. I be
Ah,
like, sugar, I love you so much. I love you, I love you, I love you. And be like, DeJoya, you already told me that 5 minutes ago. I'd be like, well, I'm telling you again. I'm telling you again. I love
yeah.
you, I love you, I love you, I love you. Because you know what? And that's another thing. Because I guess because I feel like in the past, and this could be other people too, in the past that I didn't have those things and I didn't have that reassurance. I want to give that to my partner now. I don't want them to not feel loved or not ever think that I don't love them, and I know sometimes, he'd be like, Lord have mercy. But I text be like, I love you. I love you. You know what I mean? Because I don't ever want them one to think that they're not appreciated because I guess like I said, some of these things are from my own trauma, from my past trauma or the things that sometimes resurface, so I give that reassurance all the time in every little thing. I still write little love notes with little hearts and be like, you still my boyfriend, draw the little stick figures, stuff like that. Those are
Wow.
little things that I get a kick out of. And I
Okay.
mean, he'll see it, and he'll get tickled about it, and we'll laugh about it like two little old people. You know what I mean? But it is funny, and it keeps the fire in the relationship. It keeps that little. I think that everybody needs to have a childlike kind of love, at some point, and never forget that different little things are needed. So
And
that's
we
where
all children in heart, man. We all want to revert back to that child because that's when you really didn't have any responsibility, you didn't care, you
oh
really
yeah,
were free, and you were free to be free. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? There was no
yeah, yeah,
restriction that
yeah.
kept you from actually being free. And I think that's the most important thing and the ultimate thing in life, being free. And that's
Yeah.
in every aspect of the word. All right.
Yep.
So here's another one. You might have cultural or family beliefs. Some people grow up hearing ideas like the man should lead, the provider matters the most, or one person loves harder. Those ideas shape how people think. When that's been ingrained in your brain for so many years, and when you become an adult, you wonder why I can't shake it because you've been conditioned to believe those things.
So with that being said, let me ask you this, and this might be a whole nother live, but anyway, um, that's why I think that we need to learn how to properly submit. Um, and that can go both ways. You know what I'm saying? When we talk about, what should be done and this and that, I think that the man should lead and stuff like that. I think that it's important for us as women, and some of us women are so strong minded and things like that. We have a problem with submission. And I think that because a lot of women feel like
Okay, before
submission.
you go on, what do you mean by submission?
I think okay. So when you say the man should leave, a lot of women want. Now I want to tell him this. I want no. I feel like I'm doing this. I don't. No. Sometimes when I say submission, it's important to be able to say, okay, honey, I'm gonna let you do this, and you can behind the scene give your input like Esther. Like Esther. If y'all want to go that way, read the book of Esther. Sometimes I think it's important for us women to lead in hindsight or to submit and just give our little opinions and go on, and then when needed, step in and say, well, honey, I think this, or we tried this. But a lot of women have a problem with submitting to a man and let him take the lead when need be, and then giving your input. Just because you allow a man to take the lead and do what he think is best, that's not being weak. That's allowing him to be the man that he is. Now, if you see him going totally left, say, hey, you know what, I think this and that. But I think a lot of women don't know how to say that appropriately. You know, they don't know how to be respectful when they say those things. I think that women forget those things sometimes. So that's what I mean when I say properly submit. You know, I ain't
Okay,
talking about
so
all that
since
other
you
stuff.
said that, do you think that at any point should the man be submissive to you? And
Yes,
you,
I think it work. I think it works two ways, but I think that we women, I think that when it comes to who should submit and when, I think that if it's come across respectfully and say, well, you know what, honey, we tried it this way. I think that he should be man enough to say, okay, we can try it this way. You know what I'm saying? Okay, we tried this way. So I think that that works both ways, but equally, I feel that sometimes when you talk about things like that, people feel like that's a sign of weakness, and that's not. One, being submissive is a way to silently, you know, communicate, or even to let them know that, hey, you know, you're a part of this relationship. You know, we doing this together, you know. And so I think that people have a problem with that because, like you said, what they're conditioned to believe or how they're conditioned to be.
right,
You know,
right.
that's what I'm talking about.
Okay. Well, hey, I agree with you 100% on that. I agree with you 100%. Hey, Grandmaster. Ah, let me see who else I did shout out. Hey, Johnny, how are you? Tanika, how are you? All right. Okay, so we understand that, and it's ultimately everybody's responsibility. As we said, you cannot fix somebody else. If they don't want to be fixed, I mean, there has to be a point in everybody's life, where they come to the conclusion that I can't do anything until they decide to help themselves. It's done in rehab, counseling all over the world. If that person does not want to change themselves, ain't nothing you can do to help. All right, so we got that dynamic. It's also insecurity or self-worth struggles. Sometimes the comparison reflects an internal question. Am I good enough? On the surface, the question might be who is more important. But underneath, it really means, am I safe? Am I valued and loved equally? So when someone decides to ask that question, and they're curious about that question, who is more important? The person being loved or the person who is loving? Then there's always underlying question. And there's always an underlying reason beneath the surface. And finally, here's the last one that we'll depart on. Simple curiosity or philosophy. Not every question comes from pain. And that's another dynamic that we have to pay attention to. Just because someone's asking you a question, they aren't putting you on trial, or they don't really feel insecure in all cases. And it don't mean that something's wrong or they feel inadequate. Some people genuinely enjoy exploring how relationships work. So if someone asks the question, who's got it together, who's a balanced individual, who has his spirituality in check, has his position in the world in check, and has his reverence to his God and his commitment as a man or woman to that other person, they may just be curious about how a relationship works so they can make it better. Now, our problem is anytime someone asks a question, it means, uh-oh, there's something wrong. And I'm guilty of that as well, because we default to say, well, if ain't nothing wrong, why are you answering that question? And then if I were to say, well, I'm just curious because I like to explore, what do you think that response gonna be? Man, you crazy. There's something wrong with you. You just not telling me. Right, Miss O'Neill? Right? Am I right or
Yep.
am I wrong?
Yeah, you right now. I told you I'm a little touched, so I'm gonna have to agree with that.
Hell yeah. So that's the situations that we have to deal with. But all in all, we have to understand that if a person asks those questions, there's something deep rooted. And we have to explore what that problem may be. All right, I'm gonna give y'all a moment before I close it out. Y'all got any last comments you want to add? If anybody got any comment that they want us to kind of
I'll
address?
just say this. I mean, people at the end of the day on the live, you know when you're wrong and when you're not. You know when you're manipulating and when you're not. You know when you're carrying your weight and when you're not. So everybody on the live, like we all talk about, just take ownership for your own self, your own emotions, and your own baggage that you carry. And ultimately in life, you want to learn how to be able to just fly with a carry-on. And a lot of people haven't learned how to do that. You shouldn't have to check any bags. You should live baggage free. But it takes work, it takes effort, and
Now
but
you
it's
need to
possible.
explain what you mean by that, Key.
What do you
They
mean
think
baggage free? Well,
they might think that you're talking about they need to take a vacation.
they need to take a vacation, right? Well, it goes into what DeJoya was talking about, where she was talking about people carrying certain baggage into a relationship. So past situations have nothing to do with the current. And that's how a lot of people mess it up because past situations, they're not letting it go. They're carrying it like they're in the field, in the wilderness hiking. You know what I'm saying? They carrying all them bags like they hiking instead of just letting it go. Because what they don't understand is that the other person that they're not with, they ain't even thinking about what they thinking about. So they're actually once again drinking poison, hoping the other person dies. But now they're hoping that their new relationship dies because they're bringing the poison to that, and they have
Yeah,
no idea. And then
yeah,
that person like you was saying, well, I didn't do anything wrong, or I didn't
right,
whatever. And now they want to fight with you, but what they fight with you about is not what you did, is what the other person did. But they carried the baggage, they didn't deal with it, they didn't unpack, and now they're bringing it to the relationship. That's what I mean. Like me, I travel light.
absolutely.
I've been through a lot, but I do not carry any baggage because I learned how to unpack it. And I also know you can't put on somebody else what is yours to carry or bear anyway. So, and we could take this discussion, this part right here, we could take this a whole different bunch of ways, but I'll leave it at that. We closing out. That's it. Carry your baggage, but learn how to not carry baggage and learn how to just fly with a carry-on. That's all.
Hey, Angela boys. Hey,
Yeah, I'm gonna stay very clear in my communication. I want it to stay where air can't get in between us. I'm gonna still be clingy. I'm gonna still whatever. I
And there's
mean,
nothing wrong with that. You got the
yeah,
match, sounds like. You got the match.
yeah,
So you good.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah,
and that's what I'm saying. I'm gonna keep being me. And I want him to keep being him. And I don't want to carry that past trauma with me. So yeah, my baggage is already unpacked, baby. We good to
There
go.
you
We on the
go.
way.
I would
We
just
on
great
the
say that
way.
to you. Clinginess is not baggage. Clinginess
right.
is
We
not
on the way.
baggage. That's who you are. So yeah, no, no, no. Yeah. I'm with you. Yep.
Hey, Yolanda. Hey, Tamiko. Yeah. Listen, it's very serious. I think people kind of make things more complicated in their lives than they need to, because every little thing should not be a personal attack. And when we talk about why someone feels a certain kind of way, if they feel that you're more important than me in the relationship, you as the recipient of that, you have to dig further. If it's a loving relationship, you have to dig further to find out, hey, what is it that's going on? Because if you really love somebody, if you're really into that individual, You want them to be happy. The ultimate thing in this life, it ain't how much money you got. It ain't how beautiful the woman is. It ain't how fine the dude is, how big the house. None of that materialistic stuff is the ultimate source of happiness. The only thing that you're guaranteed that you can control is whether or not you're happy or not. You can't control how much money you make. You can't control how big your house is. You can't control none of that kind of stuff. But you most certainly can control whether or not you're happy or not. If you allow people to get into your peace, if you allow people to disturb your happiness, then are you really being yourself? How are you going to elevate to the next level? How are you going to achieve a goal that you didn't achieve yesterday if you allow people to disturb the goodness that you already have? It takes time. It takes practice. It takes heartache. It takes all kinds of experiences to get to a happy place. So why would you allow something? Listen, I struggled too hard. I worked too hard. I did some things in life that most people don't get an opportunity to do. So I understand that that's a blessing. And now I'm going to allow someone else to disturb that peace? That makes no logical sense to me. Hey, gas man. So we have to understand that. Now, in conclusion, let me say this. When some people compare who is more important in the relationship, the one who loves more or the one who is loved the most, the question often points to something deeper than curiosity. It can reflect some concern about value, effort, power, security, or emotional balance. It's a pointed question that's camouflaged, but the real question reflects and is concerned about value, effort, power, security, and emotional balance. In healthy relationships, y'all hear me out, in healthy relationships, now we're only talking about relationships that you really care about. Lakook, how are you? In healthy relationship, they are not supposed to be measured by who gives more or receives more. In a healthy relationship, you don't have to worry about who gives more or who receives more. Strong relationships are built when both people feel appreciated, when they feel respected, and when they are emotionally secure. If you can cover those three things, you're going to have a healthy relationship. The real issue is usually not who matters more, but whether both people feel equally seen, equally cared for, and equally valued. All right? So we're going to leave y'all with that. Thank all of you. We got up to 2K tonight. Thank all of you for joining. We're going to see you all next Wednesday, same time, same place. Au revoir, ademais, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye, and we love all of you, and we'll see you all next Wednesday. Take care.